Afternoon and good evening to all participants from different parts of the world and time zones. My name is Clemencia Muñoz and I'm part of the UN Women's Training Center team. I'm very glad to welcome you to this webinar session on virtual online course development, process, best practices, and lessons learned, which is part of the Professional Development Program for Gender Trainers. As you all know, this program has been jointly developed and delivered by the Royal Tropical Institute KIT and the UN Women Training Center. Before we get started, allow me to outline how today's presentation is organized. First, we will briefly comment on how the GoToWebinar platform works. Secondly, we will listen and follow the content of today's presentation delivered by one of our experts on training for gender equality. Actually, it's two of our experts. And finally, we will have the opportunity to pose some questions to our experts through the online platform. And let's see how we're going to do this. As you can see on your monitors, you have a menu with options at the right side of the screen. In order to make a question, please add a question in the available box below the question function. Please note that you can type the question in this box at any time during the presentation. I will be compiling them during the session for the panelists to respond at the end. Finally, know that this webinar is being recorded and that it will be uploaded to your course space at the e-learning campus. It will also be made available through our YouTube channel of Easy Access. I'm very pleased to present today's panelists, two dear colleagues, Elisabeth Robert and Leticia Berrizbeitia. Elisabeth has been working in the UN Training Center since its creation in 2011. Currently, she coordinates courses on topics such as CEDAW, gender-responsive budgeting, political participation, and migration. She facilitates some courses too, particularly related to migration. She will be sharing with us today the experiences of the Training Center in developing moderated courses. Leticia is the Capacity Development Analyst of the Training Center with expertise in communications and gender equality and experience in the UN system as well as academia. She will be sharing with us today the experiences of the Training Center in the development of self-paced courses. Now, I would like to start by giving the floor to Elisabeth.
Thank you, Clemencia. I don't know if I had the micro, so I will repeat. Thank you, Clemencia, for your introduction, and thank you all for being here with us. I think you can see my screen now. So what you can see, as Clemencia said, I will focus on moderated online learning. What you can see in your screen now are the phases of the training cycle. You can see the 6 steps: analysis, design, planning, development, implementation, and evaluation. This graphic helps us to have those different activities in mind, but I would like to say that the chronological order is not so rigid, and it can differ from one training project to another one. In my case today, I will base my presentation on 2 courses I have been coordinating from the beginning. One on gender responsive budgeting, and another one on gender equality at local level in Latin America and the Caribbean. When we started from scratch those two projects, we went through the cycle beginning with analysis and design, but then we went through the development phase before planning, implementation, and evaluation. It took around 1.5 years to go through this entire cycle in those two cases. Let's go to each step. The analysis consisted in assessing the learning needs and the feasibility of the proposed training. It was done through a mapping and a survey. In this phase, it is also important to create an internal peer review group who will ensure the quality of the content of the course. Then we go to design. It's around 1 month. That consists in constructing the outline of the training, including the learning outcomes, target audience, methodology, monitoring and evaluation, communication strategy, time frame, tasks and responsibilities. And then we went through development. In that case, that took between six months to 1 year, including the process of peer review. So that consists in drafting of the training content, define the methods and materials, as well as adapting the contents to the needs of the audience. That's more if we have something done and then we repeat this course, and then we always have to update the contents and to adapt eventually to the new audience. Then we go to the planning step. So that's around 6 months in total. Because first we have to launch the course and to announce it, and to receive applications and screen the applications. And then once we have selected the participants, we like to have like 2 months for the payment process and to be ready for the date of the course. We have also to recruit the facilitators, the facilitator. Mostly in a moderated course, we have one moderator. We can call him facilitator or moderator or tutor, for instance. And of course, we have to organize all the campus for all the resources to be available. Then we go to the implementation phase. Our courses, moderated courses, are 2 or 3 months, running 2 or 3 months. And then we go to the evaluation, which is 1 month. The moderator we have a guideline for the report, and we do a report on the course, how participants rate the course, but also as moderator and coordinator, what are our lessons learned and how we could improve the course for the next edition. Well, based on theory, experiences of other organizations and practitioners, and also on our own experience, we have developed quality assurance criteria and also a pedagogical approach in the training center to ensure that our trainings contribute to gender equality and empowerment of women. So I will focus here in our feminist pedagogical approach and how we can apply it to online moderated courses. So our principles are the following. One is participatory learning. Another one is validation of personal experience. The third one is encouragement of social justice, activism, and accountability. And the last one, development of critical thinking and open-mindedness. Of course, we are in a continuous learning process ourselves, and we know that there is room for improvement. So please consider that what I will share now with you corresponds to our current situation, and we of course are open to suggestions to improve what we do. To be as practical as possible, I will speak about each principle and show you how we try to apply it concretely in our online moderated courses, showing you elements of our courses in our campus. So I will now just share my screen where I have selected some pages to illustrate what I will say. So let's start with the first principle, which is participatory learning. How can we do that in a moderated modality? So one way to do that is to create forums. This is one example that you can see from the course on political participation at local level. So we always have a welcome forum. What I think is very important, and that what Maria Arboleta, for instance, does always, is to respond to each post. Every people will present themselves, and Maria will respond to all of them. So it gives like, you know, like a sense of welcoming people in your house or something like that. Then in each module, you have also a forum. The moderator should prepare questions which will encourage participants to speak about their experience, their challenges, lessons learned. We should avoid a question related to definition, because participants will do a kind of copy-paste. So what we look for is that participants get engaged and speak about a topic with their own words and about their own experience. Also, what we can do is that the moderator posts messages or encourages others to post videos, articles. What is challenging in a forum is, I feel, is to speak about resistances, because it's not a spontaneous dialogue. So as you could have in social media, for instance. So what we can do also, when we see that we need more to discuss more about a topic, the moderator can also open a space for Skype meetings with one participant and the moderator. Another way to create this participatory learning is to do web conferences, like what we are doing now. As you know, we use GoToWebinar to do that, but we could use another platform. The presentation is around 30 minutes, and we give space then to question and answers. So that's the participatory part of this activity. The web conferences require a team of 2 or 3 people. So the coordinator of the course will have to identify and confirm the panelists, prepare contents, give instructions to the panelists, have a bio, a photo, and the title of the conference, of course, and also compile the question, as Clemencia is doing now. Then the facilitator of the course may introduce the panelists, prepare the question, etc. And very important, we need IT support. You know, before the web conference, we always do a test, and we have always IT support during our web conferences to be sure that everything is okay. So that's another kind of activity. What we've tried, we've done with the course on political participation at local level also, is another kind of activity which I think is very good for peer learning and peer review. So we have this exercise at the end of each module. The name is Comunidad Soñada, or My Ideal Community in English. The particularity of this activity, as you can see here, is that participants post their task here, and all participants can see what they've done. So you can go here and you can put a comment anyone can put a comment. Of course, the moderator will put the comment on what this work, but also any other participants. And also the moderator, based on the profile of participants, their interest or their country, she will form pairs. So each if I am in pair with Clemencia, let's say, I will ask Clemencia to give me feedback on what I've done and vice versa. So that I have feedback from the moderator, but I have also feedback from someone who has the same interest as I have, and so I have two feedbacks. And we hope that also promotes networking. An important point also from my point of view or practice is to make participants responsible for their learning process. To do that, it's very important to have clear instructions so that participants really know what is the content of the course, the requisites to have obtain the certificate, the chronogram of the course, and also we can put a follow-up table. It's important also that people can download some of the documents like the calendar, the description of the course, and this follow-up table. So I don't know if I don't have it here, but you can print it, and then you can you have a table with the dates when you have to deliver the task. And so I make the participants responsible to check this table and to see if she or he is on time. And also this person has to send this table to the moderator. It's a way to make her or him more responsible. Okay, then I wanted to speak a little bit about, you know, when we speak about participatory, we want to do lots of activities where people can join, etc. That is very challenging in the case of moderated courses because we have people from all over the world. So we have to find a good balance regarding that kind of participation. Also, because the course lasts 2 to 3 months, it's not feasible for participants to have so many scheduled activities. As I said, having participants connect at the same moment is challenging because of lack of availability from participants and also different time zone. So in one course, normally we propose 3 web conferences. We can also propose a web meeting, what we call a web meeting. It can be at the beginning to explain the course or at another moment. We tried in a course to do a web meeting where participants would present the state of the status of their work. This task I showed you before about my ideal community, to share what they are working on. It was very long because we had 40 participants. People sometimes take more time than we asked for. So we decided not to repeat this experience. It was good because we had an overview of the different thematic they were working on, but I think it was a little too long. Okay, so that's for participatory learning, the first approach or principle. And let's continue with the second principle, which is validation of personal experience. For this, I think that the attitude of the moderator is really key, and I will explain why or how we can do that. If we want participation and people to get involved, it's important for the moderator to create a safe place. This can be done through a warm welcoming, as I said in the first forum of welcoming, to really present ourselves and to to respond to all the posts. And it's also important to present yourself as a moderator in an engaging way, and to position yourself as a facilitator to promote horizontal learning. So the moderator should show that she or he gives importance to all kinds of experiences and not only of professional experiences. It can be personal experiences also. So I wanted to show you that a good practice for this can be to do a video also. In that case, Maria Arboleda. It's very simple, I think, with a cell phone. She's doing a video and we post it here. So I think it gives a very personal note to the course. For the forums, it's challenging for us. We try, but for participants to participate, but they don't always participate. So what we do is we put that as a requisite in the course. You have to participate at least once to obtain the certificate at the end of the course, so that they understand that this makes part of the learning process. In all our courses, we have some readings, normally one reading per module. We can have 4 to 5 modules. In my case, no, in those 2 courses. So a way also to speak about personal experience is to include in the readings some case studies, good practices, include videos, personal stories. We can also include some games so that the participant can stop and do this exercise. Also include specific questions to encourage the reader to stop and reflect on the topic we are talking about in the reading. Okay, so that's an example. Then in the last forum, it's important to ask people to share about their experience in the course, what they have learned or not. And I wanted to show you that you can do also a kind of creative exercise in this context. We use what we call in Spanish atrapasueños. I'm sorry, I don't know the word in English, but we want them to use this to, there are different ways of doing that, to see what they've retained from the ideal community exercise and what they want to do. So this is an example of what we have. You can see that each participant does it in his or her own way. Sorry. Well, so let's go. We've been through participatory learning. Now, validation of personal experience. Let's go now to the third principle, encouragement of social justice, activism, and accountability. Sorry. So I think we can try to apply this principle through 2 activities. One is the practical exercise. So the practical exercises at the end of each module reinforce understanding by allowing participants to use what they've learned and to complement knowledge gained by conducting analytic exercises that require research and critical thinking. So this option of exercise, they have to do an exercise at the end of each module. They can do it in groups or individually. Our goal is that participants take advantage of the course and the expertise of the moderator to develop a project that could be useful for them and their context. I mean, when they finish the course, our goal or our dream would be that they can use what they've been doing to implement, to start something new. When we have participants from the same organization or from the same project, the idea is to encourage teamwork. So people, when they are in the same country, they can meet face-to-face, prepare the exercise, and post it. In other occasions, when members of a group are from different parts of the world, it's more challenging, but it can work, and it's very interesting for them, also for networking, to develop an exercise in group, even if it is with someone that you don't know. It can be more time consuming because they have, to agree on how to work together, the roles of each one. Okay, so also I think we can work on this principle of encouragement of social justice, activism, and accountability through web conferences. The web conferences with experts worldwide offer the opportunity to learn from the experience of people directly involved in national initiatives or local initiatives. The panelist can be an activist, a politician, from government. So the person tells a story he or she has been part of. It makes it very personal. Inquiries about strategies followed, usage of tools, good practices, challenges, lessons learned, and other open-ended questions allow participants to learn more about, to learn more from first-hand testimonies about concrete experiences. So normally we prefer a presentation where someone tells a story. Then, for instance, we can also have it to present a report or something, but we try to have a good balance. I think it's a motivation to see the experience of others, so you can identify and say, I can do it myself also. And finally, I would go to the fourth principle, which is development of critical thinking and open-mindedness. Again, I think we can do this through the forums. I wanted to share with you here what we've done in a gender responsive budgeting course in French with Claudie Vouet. She decided, first of all, to speak about gender, to have a common understanding about gender. So what she proposed is the sort of a game, and she asked them to create their own definition of gender using a list of words. So everyone would do the exercise. Sometimes it's not really understood because, for instance, this person put the definition of all the words. So that reminds us that we have to be very, very clear on what we are asking participants to do. But here we have different definitions of what people think gender is. So it's a way, to test a little bit the level of understanding and eventually to detect some needs to acceleration. Another very important element for critical thinking, I think, is the feedback on the practical exercises. I think this is really the added value of a good moderated courses, the role of the moderator. The role of the moderator is crucial to reorient the reflection of the participants, to ask specific questions, speak about practical and strategic needs of women, forms of discrimination, root causes of inequality, challenged traditional roles. So really what makes, and we see that always in the evaluation, what makes the difference between an excellent course and a good course is the involvement of the moderator and the role, no? She has to, or he has to give a good feedback. And also we have, I wanted to speak about the quizzes. At the end of each module, we have a quiz which is related to the reading. There is a set of 8 to 10 questions with multiple choice. We give several opportunities to pass with a minimum of 80% of correct answer. Our aim here is for people to retain the key messages of the readings. So we give several opportunities for them to pass the test. So they can come back to the reading and do it again. All questions should be based on the content of the reading. There should be a balance between questions related to knowledge, attitude, and practical skills. Of course, a response must be available so that the participants understand why the response is correct or incorrect. So that's what I wanted to share with you. Thank you for your attention. And I will give the floor now to Leticia.
Thanks so much, Elisabeth, for sharing the presentation with me, and thank you for this. Only a quick comment: the last two slides you presented, or the last two screens you presented, we were not able to hear that last bit of your presentation. So if you can kindly repeat about the quizzes, maybe quickly, so everyone
About the
can
quiz
have
only?
that content. On the
Yes,
quiz
of course.
and the one before. Thanks.
Okay. Yes, because this is an important point, I think. I was telling that what, from my point of view, makes a difference between a good and an excellent course is the feedback from the moderator. You know, you have to really care about your participants, to see the task they have done, and to give feedback, constructive feedback. So what I was saying is the role of the moderator is crucial to reorient the reflection of the participant to ask specific questions, speak about practical and strategic needs of women, forms of discrimination, root causes, challenge traditional roles, etc. So I think this is really the added value of having a moderator and who gives you feedback on what you are doing, and you can establish the discussion and improve what you are doing. And the last point is the quiz. I was telling that at the end of each module, we have a quiz with a set of 8 to 10 questions with multiple choice. So we give several opportunities to pass with a minimum of 80% of correct answers. Our aim here is to be sure that the content of the reading is well understood. So all questions should be based on the content of the reading. There should be a balance between questions related to knowledge, attitude, and practical needs. And of course, very important, a response must be available so that the participants understand why a response is correct or is incorrect. So that's, you could hear me now, Leti?
Yes, everything got perfectly through the platform, Ellie. Thank you so much. So thank you for your presentation. I also wanted to thank everyone for their attention. As we very well know and we're discussing, it is attention in this sort of situation. It is a challenge, also technical issues, as we just saw. So allow me to share my screen and to start my half of the presentation, that it's going to be about the self-paced online learning courses and development. So as you know, my name is Leticia, and it is a pleasure for me to share this experience that we have had today in the developing and design of these online products. So let's start by defining what is a self-paced course. As you know, it is an online tool which has the particular characteristic of being or confronting the audience or the user, the learner, with the content on its own. What does that mean? Well, unlike the case that you just saw with Elisabeth, the case of the moderated online, there's no one at the other side of the screen. The content is designed to have this interaction with the user. So, as you can imagine, this means that there are many advantages to this type of learning and also some disadvantages. For instance, we can say this is a very useful tool to deliver straightforward knowledge and even skills acquisition at some time, but only at an introductory or baseline level. This is because the length of the content we can deliver online because of attention is limited. Another advantage is the range of the audience that you can reach with these products. A self-paced course can even be a massive learning product. And it's often said that online resources are an opportunity for democratizing knowledge. But on the other hand, and if we recall the feminist pedagogical principles that Elisabeth was commenting on, not everyone has access to devices, and not everyone has access to internet connection. So there's a digital gap, as it's called, that we have to overcome. That it's a big challenge to overcome with these products. And also, if we take into account intersecting inequalities, this becomes particularly relevant. So what does this mean? Does this mean that our tool or the self-paced course is useless to our ultimate goal of transformative change for gender equality through training? I believe it doesn't mean that. It means that we have to know when to use it and how to use each of the tools that we have on hand. What you have on the screen is it's our training wheel. It comes out of one of our guiding documents that is called the Typology Paper for Gender Equality, for Training for Gender Equality, and you can find it as well in our resource database at our online training center. But we wanted to show you this in this particular case because these are the types of training in general for all the modalities. But as I just said, in the case of self-paced, we focus on knowledge enhancement mainly. Also, we can focus on some skills training at an introductory level, as mentioned. For instance, the module that propose some tools or frameworks or checklists for gender analysis and gender mainstreaming, that would be an example. But if you think about it, these two can be the stepping stone of awareness raising, because once you have the conceptual cloud clear and you have the opportunity to engage with relevant content, well, you start building awareness about things that you may not thought of this way. And that's also the case for social transformations and change in attitudes. This cannot be like the straightforward goal of our self-paced module, but again, these three are the stepping stone of these goals that are the ultimate aspiration for us for training, right? Social transformation and changing attitudes and behaviors for gender equality. So we want you to take this into consideration, that we define training types and we talk about 5 different types, but there are really more dimensions that you have in each of your trainings for gender equality. These interact. So also retaking the logic of the feminist pedagogical principles, let's think about the difficulties or the challenges that our self-paced course may confront. For instance, the first one is participatory learning. So in this case, in the self-paced course case, the users participate by interacting with an online package, with an online product, let's say, and with our platform. So their interactions are somewhat limited and preconceived. The course is designed or it works somehow as a pathway. You can say that it takes users down to a specific path of interactions. So the possibility that you have as a trainer for addressing issues and doubts, it's basically through the help desk or are preconceived and pre-designed, and that's a big limitation. Also, validation of personal experience poses some important challenges because, similar as before, if you're at your home taking the course alone with your computer and no one is at the other side of the screen, let's say that using your own personal and unique experiences as an asset for the course may be very difficult. But then this means that it is a challenge for the content and the way we design the content of our self-paced. Actually, when we talk about engaging content, that is what it means. It means that we do a content that is easy to read, easy to hear or see for most people, or
or for our target audience. That depends on how we define it. And it's also important for users to be able to relate with the content through their own experiences. For examples, case studies are an important way of doing this, and the way you present the case study as well, the language and the wording in which you present it. Also, be sure of providing examples and data from the different relevant topics in taking examples from different parts of the world. Cultural diversity, as you know, is one of our values, and it is important that diversity is represented in each and every one of our training and learning projects. So we also have the issue of development of critical thinking, and you may wonder if this is possible to achieve with an online self-paced course. And if you haven't had the opportunity to take one, we will walk you through one in briefly. But just think of this: you're interacting only with a screen, and no one is behind. So how can you motivate critical thought? Well, there are techniques for that as well. And also, of course, as we said, limitations. I wanted to present one of those techniques to you. And in your screen, you have the example that we will use for today, which is the I Know Gender course. That is a modular course, a self-paced course, conceived to address the relevant topics by UN Women strategic areas. So we will talk about this later, but as you can see on your screen, we have a module on a specific topic, and we warn users that during the module they'll have the opportunity to take part in some exercises. So they might want to have a notepad ready. So something as simple as that, as having a notepad to interact with your own thoughts with the online content, might make the difference between developing critical thinking or not in a self-paced module. Of course, these are some of our ideas, and we would be very happy to know your own ideas on this. And in any case, let's take it step by step. We will first talk about the requirements of self-paced course and the self-paced training production process, and then we will talk about our specific lessons learned for this kind of learning experience. So what you can see on your screens right now, it's our timeline for self-paced training production. I apologize, as I know that the text might be too small for your screens. Don't worry about the little text. Just focus on the colors, which is yellow for content creation, green for packaging, and gray for testing and launch. And this would be the steps of our production process. And I also wanted us to be able to think about it in relation to our training to the phases of the training cycle. So as you see before on our wheel, we have design, planning, developing, implementing, and evaluating. And I wanted to call your attention upon the fact that when we are doing self-paced training, the focus or the main attentions that our role has as trainers is on the design, planning, and developing. Because when we reach the implementing and evaluating part of the module, our job is already done. This is done automatically through a platform or a learning management system that's called LMS by a specialist. So once you reach here, I'm sorry, I just see that there's a typo. Once you reach this part, your work should be already done. So, well, there's always reviewing, but the emphasis should be here. So what are recommendations for the steps of producing a self-paced? First, take into consideration content creation. I'm sorry, you already did your analysis. That was our last presentation. You have an analysis, and you as a training expert with your needs and capacity assessment define that the best way forward for addressing a particular training need is constructing a self-paced training. So what do you do first? You go into content creation. And this means from selecting the subject matter expert that will write the script for you or with you, and also the group of experts that is going to review it, that is called peer review. from preparing the complete wording, interaction, and resource repository in your script. I also have a script example to share with you here. The idea of the script, or you can think of the script as somewhat a box. When you put everything that you need, everything that the developers will need in the next phase for constructing the module, for actually doing the module. But first you need a map and a repository of resources. So this is the example of how we do it, but there are many ways to do scripts. The most basic part of it is having a section for what you're going to hear. We call this audio or narration, and a section for what you're going to look or read on the screen. So on screen and audio. As you can see in this example, we also have a column for resources, and this is very important for us because in a self-paced training, the resources are what allows you to go into depth in any particular subject you are addressing. So resources are very important to develop and to add at the script stage along with images. And finally, we have this column to divide the module in sections and have it organized. This is also important for the user experience to have a way of navigating through the content and always knowing where they are standing. So some ideas to be successful at the script is basically the wording. The word count is very important, so you have to keep it short and simple sentences, simple wording, and include, in case you need any wording that is more difficult, include a glossary or definitions. Also, you have to be aware of your images. What images are you inserting? And this is a gender consideration because they have to be not only culturally diverse, but gender inclusive. So we will also talk a bit more about what does that mean. So going back to our training production process, during this phase, once you start your project and you have allocated all your experts, you go to the 2-iteration review. We recommend to do a first peer review when all your experts intervene, and at this phase, more people can take part of revision because the content is still flexible. You can intervene in the structure and you can add in the substantive. And it's important to have also diverse backgrounds in this group. And we have a second review, or we recommend to do a second review, which is more technical, a smaller group that has to be part of the peer review and know were their recommendations in order for them to be implemented. And the technical group review other kind of things. For instance, is the wording correct? Is the paragraphs are too long or too short? Is the content relevant against what's on screen? So that's why we call it technical. I'm sorry. Let's go back for a moment here. Then we go to the process that we call packaging. This is also called development. And it's similar to the content creation because we also recommend to do 2-iteration review. But before that, and a very important step is called instructional design. The instructional design is the conversion of the content into a learning experience. So that means that you need to take the time, or an expert group of people that are expert in turning content into screen, have to decide how to create the interaction, how many screens will you have, what's the style of your content, what are the visuals and the interface, etc. So this has to be conceptualized and implemented, and of course, experts on e-learning have to intervene on this phase. You will need them, but it's also important that you, as a project management manager of your trainer, know what is needed at each different stage, because this will allow you to provide the relevant support and feedback they will need for your module to be a quality module, or for your course to be a quality course. And it also can save you a lot of time and a lot of costly rework. And why do we recommend 2 reviews during packaging? Well, this is especially sensible when the module comes with narration, because, well, that's something that's very difficult to undo. But also because you might, well, you might not know this, but the transition from paper to screen can be so radical, can be so different to what you expect, that only in the on-screen phase is when you realize that some substantive content is missing, or that something is redundant. So reviewing on screen, it's very important, having a first review of your narration against your screen in order to produce a good beta version that you will only need to sign off or to quickly check. So once you sign off, you proceed to the testing and the launch of your course. And what's testing and launch? Well, you have, if you created a box, which is your script, and then you proceed packaging it or making it a reality, like an envelope for your box, then you want to show it to the world. You want to share it with everyone. But wait, there are some technical considerations that are important to think beforehand. Before you launch it to the world, there has to be a learning management system available for having it hosted. So as the learning management systems are different throughout platforms, some testing might be needed before the launch. So I'm just saying, take this into consideration while you're planning, because it can alter the date significantly. And also, it's very important to think ahead and plan, for instance, an important or relevant date, international day for your topic. And this is more a communications and a visibility consideration, but it's also very good to plan that, or to know, to have a timeline since you start your project, because it motivates you to get timely responses until the end. So only as a reflection, look how the phases of the training cycle are not set in stone. They are also interacting between them, and they vary between modalities. Okay, so now we are going to go to one of our examples. The one that we discussed before is the I Know Gender course, which is a basic introductory course for gender concepts, and it's also an introduction to relevant contents in each of the UN Women thematic areas, although it has grown to be a broader course and to reach a broader range of topics. So, well, what we wanted to do here is share this online tool with you and the way that you can access the tool. And this is because the first 3 modules of the I Know Gender are an open access, completely free online resource that that you can use in your training experiences and when you deliver training. We use this usually for creating a baseline knowledge of gender basic concepts. So what you have on screen now, it's our home page, the trainingcenter.unwomen.org page. If you go to the training section, I have it open here for easy access, but you click on training, our complete online catalog will be displayed. According to the language you select, it will be displayed, and it will display the options that we have in that particular language. So as you see, self-paced courses, the one we're discussing right now, are the first ones in our list. We do hope you want to check out this complete list later. And the first one of our list is the I Know Gender 1 to 3 basic gender concepts modules. So what are we going to do here? We're going to click in Add to Cart. And as I already have it open in my account, then I cannot add it because I already bought it. But just so you know, you click on Add to Cart, and then you go to your cart to the button says Buy It, but as I said, is for free. So just so you know how to access, if you are in my case and you already have an account, you just log in and go to My Course Space, the one here. You have here all the courses that you have taken with us. Actually, here is the Professional Development Program for Gender Trainers. And then you click on your packages. The package I want to show you now is the I Know Gender. I also have it open here for this example. So this pop-up box arises when you click there, and now you have access to your content that we say is, as we said, is self-paced, and you can access at any time, at any place, as long as you have connection. So what do we have here? Well, you can see the decision that we had to take for this module development. First, we have both audio narration that you can also follow by reading and online content. And second, we have basic interactions in our interface. You can navigate through a menu, which is important, as we said. You can also go to the previous or the next slide. And finally, you have something that's very useful for us that we call the resources tab, that, as you see, they link relevant resource or a resource that is relevant to the topic that is being addressed in that particular section or slide. So I have that same slide right here in your PowerPoint presentation that we will share with you as well. And well, this is only as so you can see how interactions go and the types of decisions that you have to take while doing this sort of module. And now we get to another sensitive issue, which is the gender-sensitive language and the gender-sensitive images. We already say that we have to be mindful of cultural diversity and to make sure that we are reflecting that diversity in the way we represent or in the pictures we introduce. Well, this also happens with illustrations. Illustrations somehow, or it can be challenging for illustrations or icons to be gender inclusive because icons are a simplification of culturally conceived things. So I wanted to bring this example, which is a classic example. We have the classic male gender icon and the classic female icon. And how do we introduce diversity? Well, we took the decision of including a mixed icon. And maybe it's not completely inclusive or it does not represent the complete diversity of people we have taken the module, but it does, from our point of view, introduces the possibility of reflection and the question of inclusiveness. No? So that's the important part. Always being aware of what are you introducing in your module as content, that everything has a significance, that nothing is gender neutral, and that you have to strive to leave no one behind at every decision that you take. So this same thing happened with language, and gender-sensitive language is a very broad subject, and we can devote a whole webinar to this. But the important, again, to have in mind, the key advice is to remember that language is not gender neutral, and you always have to cross-check, and it's good to do this in the different steps of development, that all the words have to be checked to detect gender blindness and the language that reinforces inequalities. Examples can be found easily. A classic one is the word mankind that used to be usual for the English speakers. And you're referring to the whole group of humans, not only mankind. Also, businessman and countryman are common words for English. So that's a classic example for these languages. In Spanish and French, we also have a lot of challenges regarding the nouns and the adjectives, because for our language, they are genderized, and to be inclusive, we have to repeat somehow, or sometimes he and she for the different nouns. So that can be challenging, but it's also a decision to be taken, and that's the decision we took for the I Know Gender course. And well, yes, well, finally, this whole group of considerations will give the shape and will guarantee that your module follow those feminist pedagogical principles that we conceived, that we addressed as a challenge at the beginning of this presentation, but that can also be an opportunity, right? So we are reaching the end of our presentation, and we thank you all for your attention. And know that we will be happy to respond to any questions you may have. I will go back with Clemencia for this, that's been compiling the questions. So Clemencia, I'm going to share your screen now.
Thank you, Leticia. can you share the screen? So, okay.
Yes.
I have 3 questions for you. I think the first one is addressed to Elisabeth. How does the digital gap affect online learning for gender equality?
Hello, yes. Do I have the mic? Yes. Okay.
Yes.
Thank you for the question. It's a very important one. We know that some people don't have access to internet. Other people are not very comfortable with using a computer or internet. So that's really a big challenge for us. A good practice that we could share, for instance, we had a group, UN Women in, where was that? I think it was in Senegal, had given scholarships for counterparts to participate in one of our courses. So that what they propose is to have a place for them to come and to access, to have computers and access to internet so that they can explain them how to use it, and they can really participate in the course. So I think that's an idea to to continue working on how we could make alliances with NGOs or organizations that promote access to internet and technologies, so that people that would not go to moderated courses because they are afraid of or they just cannot do it, can access our courses. So that's what I could share about that. But it's really, yes, it's important, and we see that for some people it's very challenging to access to a course. You know, in some cases we have to give a lot of support for people to be able to really use the course.
Thank you, Elisabeth. I have another question. I think this would be for Leticia. How do we measure reach out impact?
Yes, thank you, Clemencia. It's an interesting question because we're always thinking in terms of the impacts of our learning products online. And as we said, they have the opportunity or the possibility to be very wide. So we have different methods to do this, and they're basically questionnaires included in the platform and included at the end of the self-paced modules that provide information on the completion and on the learning experience of the users. We will have the opportunity to go deeper into this one in the next presentation that will take place next week. But I also wanted to add a reflection regarding the impact and the gender access gap to online and the internet gap. And these are the reflection on mobile accessibility, that one of the things that we've been working to do is for making our courses and our platform compatible with mobile devices, and as their accessibility rate is bigger, then also our accessibility possibilities grow. So that's an important measure. We also look in terms of impacts to our registration reports, and that is how we know how many people has been interested in taking the course, and the difference between the people who register and the people who actually finalize and evaluate the course. And we also have there some sort of feedback of the module use, and let's say, I don't know, how well is it being received. So I hope this answers the question.
Thank you. And the final question addressed to both of you is, have you gathered feedback? What are the results?
Okay, may I start?
Yeah, sure.
Bueno, as Letty said, you know, we have tools for evaluation, so we use them. We really care about the feedback of participants to improve our courses. Then on impact, sometimes we have some people coming back and telling us a very good story that they could use what they've done to implement X or other projects. So that's very rewarding for us. Or, for instance, when we have someone who takes several courses with us. So I think this is a good way to see that they took some advantage, no, of this learning experience. But I think this is a task that we have to do to come back maybe to our participants after a while and to see how they could use the training. But this is challenging also.
Thank
Yes,
you. Leti, would you like to add anything?
thank you, Clemencia. Yes, only to add on what Elisabeth says, that indeed for the online self-paced courses in particular, the open access feedback, the one that states users' experience is somewhat more of a challenge because what we use is straightforward close-ended questions. But there are also other ways to participate and then to see user engagement. As I said, looking at the evaluation and how many of the one who started finalized the course is a good indicator, but also who of those come back for more learning. It's also and we have good rates of this. Once they enroll in one of our courses, they usually go on and they take some others. So that's also important for us. And actually, I just wanted to say as a final note that all participants that listen to this recording on the recording on YouTube or in their platform can actually come back to us as well, and that we will be available for them to respond to any questions, and that this is indeed a very important part of the learning experience, you know, to be able to interact with your trainer that's also learning with you. So that's it.
If I
Well,
may,
thank you.
Clemencia, add
Sure,
something.
sure,
No, I
sure.
was speaking about responsibility of the learner also, and I think it's important to invite, and that can be done through a moderated course or a face-to-face course, to motivate them to give feedback all along the process from the beginning to the end, so that we can rectify, we can do it better during the training. It's a mutual responsibility, this process, you know. So yes, we have to try to have feedback all along the process of the training, I think.
Thank you very much, Elisabeth and Leticia, for presenting and the challenges and opportunities of online training, making the difference between moderated and self-paced, which I think is very interesting. Thank you to all participants for being available. And as just to reiterate that this webinar will be recorded and will be available through our YouTube. Thank you very much and goodbye.
Thank you so much.
Thank you. Bye bye.
Bye bye.
Bye.